Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's Public Works webinar, Outsmarting Traffic, Integrating Waze into Your Maps and Apps. My name is Mike Dyer, and I'm the Southeast Regional Manager for Esri on our state and local government team. Joining me today on this webinar to give you an inside look at the City of Colorado Springs Cone Zone program is Jamie Burkett, Sales Engineer for Cartograph, and Andy Richter, the GIS Supervisor for the City of Colorado Springs. This webinar is brought to you by Esri and our partner, Cartograph. Esri and Cartograph have partnered to seamlessly integrate Cartograph's operations management system software with the Esri ArcGIS platform to enhance daily operations, support analysis and data-driven problem solving, and to improve the quality of service to your citizens. I'll now pass it over to Andy Richter and Jamie Burkett.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Jamie Burkett, and I'm a sales engineer here at Cartograph. Before that, I was the GIS coordinator for the City of Anderson, South Carolina, so I'm very familiar with Esri's suite of GIS products. Before I hand it over to Andy, I just want to explain two of our products that Andy is going to mention in his presentation, Navigator and our Operation Management System, or OMS for short. Navigator is Cartograph's old legacy product that the City of Colorado Springs used for asset management before migrating all of that data into our operation management system. OMS allows organizations to manage their citizen service requests, all of their work orders, and helps them manage all of their assets across all departments within their organization. OMS has a seamless bidirectional integration with GIS, basically which allows GIS to be the system of record for the spatial information of the assets, and then OMS is the system of record for all of that cost and condition information. And then Andy is going to explain how the City of Colorado Springs takes that even one step further by pushing road closures and other lane restrictions, otherwise known as cone zones, out of OMS and into Waze, the world's largest community-based traffic and navigation mobile application. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Jamie. Colorado Springs started with Cartograph in 2005. Here's some stats relating to the city. One thing I really wanted to focus on was under our strategic plan starting in 2016 was investing in infrastructure. That was a very key point for all citizens. I really wanted to focus on road repairs and other asset infrastructure that needed to be addressed after several decades of issues. So in 2015, Measure 2C was a voter-approved measure, was 0.62% sales tax that was focused directly on road repairs. That generally estimates about $50 million a year, and citizens ranked roads as priority number one out of all city services that are provided. In 2017, Measure 2A was a stormwater fee that sunsets in 20 years. It started in July of 2018 that assesses basically a $5 fee against all residential parcels and $30 an acre for developed non-residential parcels. What that will allow is for infrastructure, maintenance, and education that'll be around $460 million over the next 20 years that we can focus on our stormwater needs. So those two measures by themselves generates a lot of construction throughout our city. And that was really the main driver on showcasing where these cone zones are located, how long they will be there and impact our citizens, and showcasing that into other data sources that people are consuming. So the current status of the city, we migrated to from legacy softwares throughout the city to Cartograph in 2005. We really wanted to have more of a baby step approach, and so we really wanted to focus on one group within a division at a time to really create that model for success. and then basically replicate that model for success across the organization. So in 2015, we transitioned over to operations management system with Cartograph, OMS, and that's really where it really blossomed throughout the organization to become a true enterprise solution for asset management and workflow management technology. Today, we're around 400 users with 79 asset types, which equates to about 450,000 active assets across our infrastructure. We're thinking we probably have another 100 to 150,000 assets to go to inventory across the city, and that'll truly get us to where we need to be in order to make more data-driven decisions. We're currently 9 out of our 19 departments that are Cartograph customers. So for a successful enterprise solution, I really wanted to take a step back and kind of showcase, what does that model of success really look like? And so as you go through there, and you may be a very new organization to asset management technology, or you may be more advanced, but you really need these 4 things to truly to be successful. As a Cartograph champion, at the time I was within traffic engineering, and I really wanted to take on a new role within the city. And for decades, we would see miscommunication within the same department, communication with other departments on shared assets. And so we really wanted to make a very robust solution that would take us into generations and beyond. And so creating that buying process is very critical within your organization for all levels, from management role, looking at what you actually need as far as budget to secure and to invest in your infrastructure, all the way through inspector roles, call center roles. They're all so important in this model of success. Along that, with communication and teamwork, obviously for any project is important. We follow this 8-step model of change. It can be applied to very small projects, if you're looking at implementing just a singular asset, or across an entire department. And so once you go through and build these steps, and it really kind of guides you through the process. So it's not so overwhelming, because it really can be overwhelming as you're looking at, well, we've got all these departments with all these different types of assets. Where do we start first? Is usually the most common question. So I kind of break that up and look at really where do you want to focus? For example, for us, the citizens were doing a survey. Where do they want to focus the organization on a priority? So another item is creating a transition plan or a business plan. This allows you to be very focused. This is an example of when we migrated in 2015 from the Cartograph Navigator product to the operations management solution system. And so really we've had all of these great success stories with all these divisions. And how do we bring all these folks over from the Navigator solution into Cartograph OMS? And so having that transition plan, being able to prioritize, look at where folks are, where would they like to be, right? So it really keeps you focused on a business plan. And again, that can be focused across, the entire enterprise. But again, as a baby step solution, really kind of focusing your energy to where you really want to have those most successes as quickly as you can. So once you integrate or implement a solution, really the post-implementation process, celebrate your success. I think that can be often overlooked in an organization. You're driving so fast, so quick to get to your end goal. You really need to stop and say, wow, this is kind of where we were, and this is where we are, and this is maybe where we'd like to go. So maybe not take all those giant steps all at the same time can really help you from learning not only with your workflow process within your organization, but also kind of listen to possibly some efficiencies that you'd like to gain along the way. And identifying new technology, just new ways of doing different methods is important. So as you're looking at workflow, all those key items, as far as, documenting, bringing in all your resources, communicating with everybody and having an overall strategy so everyone's going in the same direction is very important. Once you kind of create that flow, it's very easy to kind of copy and place that into the next group, right? So you can say, well, possibly these are some suggestions for streamlining the workflow for the next group. And so it's great to kind of build that as you go. Looking for opportunity. For example, before we never really thought about Waze and where people really were going to get information. And so that was an opportunity that we looked at that was really important. And so so as we go through and identified, what would be the best approach to create a cone zone and really, be more efficient with that information. So we looked at, the opportunity of Cartograph having and consuming ArcGIS Online, AGL. Without that, we don't know, we couldn't live without it today. And so it opens up a lot of doors for an organization with the use of AGL, ArcGIS Online. And so we really wanted to look at, creating a cone zone, how would be the best practice or best approach in order to do that. And so we created a Cartograph asset as one of those, like I mentioned earlier, is one of those 79 different types. So obviously a cone zone can be very short term, could be 1 to 3 days, or it could be several years, multi-phase project that cone zone could change here and there. And so consuming that data externally and having that information feed other sources was very important. Sharing that data with other organizations. For example, folks are looking at that info from our website map. But again, it's like, where are people going for this information? We really doubt, folks are looking for more real-time information such as cone zones on a government website, right? So, where are people going? And that's when we really started going down the Waze path. And so we are currently modifying our cone zones to actually go to the next level, which will be going live here in a few weeks for all of our projects. Again, we'll have a project as an asset, so all of our city projects, giving the description, the estimated cost, timeline, and actual cost available, which is right now available on our government website. But again, we'd like to have that information more widely available for all. Obviously, from a project standpoint, the cone zone is just one component of that, but that I thought that was the best next step for us in order to have the freedom and ability to filter down to such projects for folks to update that information and showcase that to citizens. So just to talk a little bit of our previous workflow, the gentleman with the red jacket there, I saw this and I was like, yeah, that's definitely a GIS role, right? So he can see, as the workflow, it needs a lot of help. There's a lot of holes, a lot of room for improvement. As you see everyone else in the background, they're kind of like, yeah, I'm okay with the way I'm doing my business. They don't really see what's coming down the path. And so that's where we decided, once we really needed to change our workflow. And previous we were meeting with teams every single week in a large room. Everyone was manually identifying their own projects, what was completed, in progress, or brand new. All that information was being funneled to one individual GIS role as a publisher. He would then update all that information on the map on our website. But again, that data was only static. It was basically updated once a week, and it was only on our website. And so, yeah, it was a good first step, but again, there's a lot of room for improvement there. So to look at our new workflow, we really wanted to focus on the cone zone subject matter experts, and so they can, reside within a particular team. We also have a permitting group that handles traffic control permit processes that for internal and external projects, approving projects for those permits for contractors and other project managers within the city. So those are just one component of a permit. Obviously there can be right-of-way permits, excavation, concrete, and what have you, that basically all roll up into a traffic control plan as part of those projects. And so we really wanted to focus on those subject matter experts, and also for folks that are going through internal projects for project management of when cone zones possibly could change from different phases. And so it's very quick and easy interface for folks to enter and update that cone zone information directly in Cartograph. That GIS sync then auto updates that information. The sync runs nightly after hours. And so that information automatically then updates our web map on our website. It also, that same service then will update any external data maps, such as Waze, going through. And so I really wanted to, once you kind of identify, your previous workflow, you can kind of see where your areas of improvements are in order to be more efficient, have a more quality data set, and then basically having that overall great service for our customers to consume. So I wanted to just kind of walk through some screenshots of Cartograph. Right now, when I created this presentation, we had 38. I think that was first part of January, where we were having one snowstorm after another. And here, I think right now we're sitting about 170. We're anticipating that 2019 is going to be a very, very busy year, not only for the construction industry, but also the projects that we have on hand for those two measures I mentioned before that were ballot initiatives. So we've completed about 2,500 cone zones since go live, and this basically is the screen that folks look at a particular cone zone, and the map above it, basically they'll just draw a line where the cone zone will start and stop. Some information about the location for the street and from and to points, and then the cone zone construction type. Is it construction? Is it a road closure? That type of thing. That will then notate what type of zone it will be. And then the status, is it active? Once they go through the process and it's completed, then the zone will be marked completed, which then automatically will go over and then remove itself from our website map and then remove from Waze map. The impact of the zone, so it could be bidirectional, northbound, southbound. You might have just some lane restrictions, so it's more of a description for citizens to see what the zone will impact. The duration of impact, this is very important. It could be a full closure that's 24 hours a day for the length of the project. For example, this one is just a time restriction from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. During the nighttime hours, the traffic is opened back up for all lanes. The estimated start and completion time is very important, so they can see if it's a very short-term zone or long-term. The area of responsibility just notates this is something that's not seen by the citizens, but it's something that is important to us. We might have an area, for example, this one is our streets division, or we might have a particular project manager's name in that field. That's very helpful for when our call center folks are getting calls about a particular location. They can see that zone and see who needs to be contacted for additional questions, or it could be issues relating to weather or whatnot. You know, you might have a huge windstorm come through there and knocked over quite a few barricades, and the construction contractor hasn't gone through yet to look at that. So and then any notes, for example, this one is associated to a pavement segment. And so I really wanted to focus on, you know, this is really driving automation, you know, updating several different maps, and not, you know, not having a resource, you know, that's constantly updating these maps separately is I think, the most important message I want to relay today, is that Cartograph Data will automatically update all these data sources with one entry. And so, for example, the map on the left side of the screen is our website map. Communications uses that a lot to look at new projects that have just started, possibly with, it could be projects that might have some more media attention on them, for road closures and active cone zones. And then the map on the right is the Waze screen that's showcasing where all of our activities are occurring. I do want to mention that here very recently, within, I think it was early January of this year, the media outlets were actually seeing this information, and now they actually have a Waze traffic report every morning for all of their consumers. And so it was just excellent timing that we were going down this path already, but to showcase and actually have the media see that information rather than being more reactive and saying, wow, you know, you're closing this road and that road and detours here, there, and there. They're actually seeing that information themselves to be able to communicate that to our citizens as well. Once that first media outlet started in January, obviously all the others started, right? And so now every single media outlet has a Waze traffic report that's saying all of our information, plus the Wazers that are reporting other issues. So this is just a basic screenshot from Waze. When they click on a particular cone zone, the information that we saw previously as far as the impact, who was reported by is the city of Colorado Springs, and then how long ago that we reported it. We've seen a lot of folks actually give the thumbs up, and so we're seeing quite a few of positive comments that, you know, we're trying really to go to the next level, the next step to actually showcase where all the tax dollars are being spent. And so we're getting a lot of positive feedback from that. You can very quickly, if you've never used Waze before, very quickly as you're going through, it will route your path to go around road closures and other, you know, type of construction activities. I've got a really short, quick, positive story. We had every year we've got a massive special event downtown, and folks were pleasantly surprised that they forgot it was that Friday night, and then all of a sudden they were getting alerts right before the construction zone started that they're about ready to close a lot of streets downtown and rerouted them around downtown. So I just wanted to share that you know, you're getting a lot of positive feedback from citizens using this type of technology. So really with you know, how do you get started with integrating Waze, you know, with Cartograph and Esri? Waze has a Connected Citizens program, and it's a free data exchange. Basically, it's a partner relationship with your organization and Waze that is very quick. You know, they have certain criteria that the data needs to be in a certain format, and so when we looked at that, it was very, very critical to make sure that integration was seamless. But it's not difficult. It really isn't. Once you go through there and you're on the Connected Citizens Program site, basically there's an Apply Now button, and you just basically walk through the steps, with the Waze organization to become an official partner. Once that documentation is all approved, you can then begin sharing your service, your GIS REST service, with Waze, and then they can start consuming it on their side, and it's very nice and easy to do. There's several videos about the program on their website, and I highly recommend all organizations to go through that. So especially when now media is starting to say the benefits of having that info. I just wanted to showcase some new enhancements with Cartograph in the past few versions. They now have the ability to create additional dashboard gadgets on your own. You can very quickly create a dashboard gadget, either looking at a list or, for example, there's other types that you see on the screen. It could be a pie chart or a bar graph, a number, or percentages to meeting a certain goal. And so we were within, I think, a minute and a half, we were able to create an overdue cone zone gadget, which then can be shared to individuals or an entire security role to see where overdue cone zones are. That way, obviously, once you get into several hundred, if not thousands, of cone zones that are active, it's very easy to miss a few, right? And so it's a very nice, easy way to see where items might be overdue. And it might just be very simple weather related or resource issue from the contractor side that potentially needed to extend their permit 1 to 2 more days, which is great. And so once you go through that, but we really, again, want to make sure the data is reflecting that. So you can then very quickly change that estimated completion date, extend that out 1 to 2 days, or when that date they think might be completed. And so we're actually looking at now in Cartograph, you can create automations, and we're looking at possibly creating an automation to where it will close the cone zone automatically. It will not take a resource to go through and make sure those are all updated. For the most part, cone zones and contractors, are done right on time. You probably have a 90% completion rate of exactly that's the date that it's going to be completed. But there are, a few that potentially that may need to be extended. And so with those automations, we'll possibly have like a notification sent out through email that will notify the person that this cone zone has been completed. Another trigger that we're looking at is when a permit comes in for an extension. That's a great way to say that right there needs to be part of the workflow, and then it can go to the actual cone zone, extend that out 1, 2, possibly a week of whatever they think they'll be completed. So I just wanted to kind of showcase this. It's great to have those reminders. We might here in a few weeks might move over to that automation, but either way, it's a great thing to have. So just looking at the numbers, I wanted to look at a return on investment. Really, how much time are we saving going from that previous workflow where everything and everybody was going through this manual process every single week. We've been able to save 286 hours a year, equals almost $11,000 in time for folks. not having to do that and removing that meeting from their calendar is always a great thing. And so it's been very gratifying to show and actually, you're connecting more of your the dots per se, once you get to a certain level with your operation management system for Cartograph, to be able to grow and really refine your business processes is powerful. So with that, I'll turn it over for any questions that we might have.
Hey, thanks, guys. So we've got a number of questions that are coming in. So let me just start here at the top. So first question: when your field staff create a cone zone from the field, are they using laptops to do that? And this related to that, do the field staff draw the new assets?
Yeah. So for example, some of our folks that are more of the cone zone approvers from the permit side, we are switching over from revolves, HP revolves, to a Microsoft Surface, to where it's more of a laptop, or you can detach to have a tablet. We find that we started using phones, cell phones, smartphones for that type of thing, but some depends on the user, but some folks rather would use a tablet as far as more of a screen size to actually do that information. So it kind of varies on the subject matter expert. If they're more of a field type person that's updating this info, usually for the most part, folks are going through and approving permits. Really, that's the trigger for that group to actually draw the cone zone. And they've got a regular size monitor in their office before they go out and start doing inspections for the day. For the most part, that's the workflow.
And just to add to that, Mike, Cartograph does have mobile applications for both iPad and basically for smartphones too. So as Andy said, that can really just come down to the personal preference of the field worker.
Okay. Another question: Can you talk about the one-way or two-way agreement when signing up for the Waze Connected Citizen program? What's the difference between the agreement levels?
Sure. I wasn't familiar with the two different ways. We were the first city in Colorado, so I think at that time they might have had just the one option, but sounds like there's two now. But yeah, I think under the agreement that we were with, obviously the data resides on our side, which we still own the data, and then they're consuming a REST service at a particular time of day in order to update the data. So yeah, I'll have to go on their website myself to see about that second option. But yeah, that was at the time we just had one option.
Okay. Well, so the documentation for the Waze Connected Citizen program seems to indicate that a data provider needs to have ArcGIS GeoEvent server to participate in CCP. Is that true?
Well, basically our configuration is we're using a data portal. It's not Esri's data portal. It's actually through Socrata that they're consuming the REST service from. So we're currently not using server. It's just under the configuration format that they require in order to consume the service. But that's how we're operating.
Yeah. So Waze Connected Citizen program members can access the Waze feed as a layer through Esri's ArcGIS marketplace. So you don't necessarily have to have GeoEvent server anymore. Another question: how do you create the XML or JSON file to send to Waze? Can you describe that process again? Sorry if you already said that before.
Sure, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so basically once you go through and set up the format or the configuration of the data, going through their specs, then basically where you would have that service, that REST service reside, where they're going to be pulling from Waze, from the organization to Waze. Really, they just need to know what that URL is in order to capture that. So it's very, very easy. Once the critical piece is the data has got to be formatted to the exact specs that they have outlined in their documentation.
Okay. So this is an interesting question. So what formula or standards were used to calculate those cost savings that you just mentioned?
Sure. So as I mentioned in the previous workflow, and I do this for every project, we kind of walk through the previous workflow and what resource or resources are at every step of the workflow, and then we calculate a cost of their time based on how much time they're spending on that step. I then walk through the entire workflow, and then you get basically an overall cost for that item. For example, for that cone zone. For the new workflow, excuse me, you then walk through the exact same process, but you look at the steps that you can eliminate from the workflow, and then by doing that, you can then calculate. Obviously, there's still steps that you have to complete, but then you can look at the time saved from each of those, basically of how many cone zones are in a given year for that particular step, and then add those up to see that savings for amount of time and then for cost.
Okay. So do you cover unexpected road closures that are less than 1 day closures? So for example, a water main break with another tool, since your updates are done nightly?
Yes, so we are discussing that option right now. There is basically a step within Waze that we would become more of a Wazer to notify the public in real time. Obviously, on those emergency type utility issues, for the most part, they haven't even had time to go through the permitting process. So again, it's right now, they've got to get out there and do it. And so we're talking with our communication and innovation and sustainability team to become more of like a Wazer to report those emergency issues. And then we can notify the public in real time for that.
Oh, that's great. There was a question about just elaborating on the Waze integration and how that works, and I'm curious. So how long did it take for Colorado Springs to set up this integration between Cartograph, Esri, and Waze?
Yeah. So at the time when we created cone zones, we were just updating our website map. So we weren't a business partner with Waze at that point. Once we had the structure that we went through there and had approved from all the stakeholders, created that structure in SDE, in GIS, created that GIS sync from Cartograph to that layer in SDE, and then that piece right there. Not an exorbitant amount of time. Obviously, those two pieces have to be done after hours for our organization, so we can take the systems offline to implement that configuration. But at that stage right there, I think it took us probably maybe 3 to 4 days max, somewhere right in there. Once we looked at Waze and became a partner, there was some configuration changes that we had to do, but again, very minimal. And once we revised those changes, which probably took us, maybe another day to 2 days, and then they were consuming our data. So all in all, obviously, there's more communication as far as going through there and having your documentation approved and whatnot through that process. But the actual setup time, for everything was probably around a week. But again, going through the documentation with them probably was maybe, I want to say, another week and a half, just because of the time zone difference. They are located in Israel, and so it's just the obviously time zone change. Communication was going back and forth. So
sure. Yeah. So related to the question about the 1-day closures around water main breaks, someone commented that not just emergencies, but things like sweeping and line striping and inlet cleaning, temporary lane closures for geotechnical boring or coring operations, that there's a lot of other shift-related work activities that would be great to add as well.
Yeah, definitely. Those are great ideas. A lot of those could potentially be moving operations, but you're definitely right. You're impacting that lane or multiple lanes for that activity. So yeah, those are fantastic comments.
Here's an interesting question. Can you speak to the improvement of safety in construction zones as a result of this implementation? Has this helped to meet your organization's safety objectives?
That's a fantastic question, and I really wanted to know, potentially, obviously with our risk management department, are dealing with crashes, dealing with city employees and city projects, but yeah, I really would like to know of a way and really see how we can filter down using crash data from police departments to see if these were potentially a construction zone type event was going on. And I'm kind of wrapping my head around that right now, actually, to kind of extend that, to see, looking at previous years. Unfortunately for the city in 2018, was a record number for us for fatalities in the city. I think we were at 47 or 48 in the year, traffic fatalities. Obviously not relating to cone zones. It was, more distracted driving and other circumstances. But yeah, I'm actually seeing if we can filter on that in the crash data to see if it's construction zone related. And then when we went live with sharing this information, if there's any correlation on a decrease or not. So no, fantastic question.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that. And there were maybe a couple other questions that might be specific to certain situations. So we'll follow up. We'll follow up offline with those particular questions. But thank you everybody for your questions.
Wow, great job, Andy. Thank you. We just wanted to give you basically mine and Andy's contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And if you want more information, the next slide, Andy. If you want more information, you can get our Building a High Performance Government Guide, at cartograph.com/how-to. It'll basically kind of show you how you can be more effective, efficient, and productive with that investment in Esri, with that investment in Cartograph. And after that, the world is your oyster. You can push things out to Waze and all other things. Also, we'd like to mention our Cartograph National Conference. It's on April 29th through the May 3rd at the Sheraton in Denver, Colorado. You can go to cartocon.com and register for that.
Yeah, Andy and or Jamie, thank you, and Andy, thank you. That's really impressive work there at Colorado Springs. And I'd like to invite everyone to visit the Esri booth at the Cartograph National Conference, which is coming up April 29th through May the 3rd, where we are this year's conference hero sponsor. This is going to be an information-packed week that will inspire you to think bigger and take on local government in a whole new way. There's going to be over 100 sessions taking place and the chance to connect with 500 peers from across North America's cities, counties, parks, and utilities. So you can find out more about the conference at cartocon.com. So thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. And again, a big thanks to our speakers, Andy and Jamie. When this webinar is finished, you'll be prompted to complete a survey. So I encourage you to please take a minute or two to answer the survey questions so we can continue to improve on our webinars. So as I mentioned earlier, the link to the recorded webinar will be sent in a follow-up email. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today, and have a nice day.